Everyone. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I know if you're going to watch the recording for of this, we appreciate it. We hope that this will start some awesome dialogue and just get your brain thinking as we move into the summer here. Um, so this is The Art of Being a Woman, the discussion on self-image and self-worth with Teresa McMahon and myself, Victoria Leasing. Um, Yeah, we're just gonna kick off here. This is what to expect for tonight. We have introductions. We're gonna share a little more about our story, um, and then we're gonna go into Teresa's gonna go into self-image and self-worth, and then we can kind of open the floor up for discussion. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'll go deeper into discussion there, and then we'll talk about the wholeness school at the end. So that's kind of the lay of the land tonight. All right, so I'm Victoria Leasing. I am from Rockville, Maryland. I graduated from Catholic University just last May, and now I work as a wholeness coach, and I'm also working as a sales development representative for Memory Blue. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the quick intro for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Victoria. And my name is Teresa McMahon, and I am from Rockford, Illinois, or Loves Park, Illinois. And I studied psychology and Spanish at Benedictine College in Kansas. Graduated back in 2016. And then after that, I worked as a advocate for victims of domestic violence. And then I worked in the domestic violence courts for about 6 years. And then currently, I just stopped doing that maybe a year ago, and I work as a youth minister part time, and then I'm also a certified wholeness coach with the Wholeness School, and I've been doing that for about 2.5 years now.
Awesome. So that was kind of a quick rundown of of our experience and our just a quick introduction. Now we're just going to take some time to share a little more about each of our stories, kind of how we got here with the Wholeness School, and we're going to do it in context specifically of this webinar. So in context of self-worth and self-image and how um, how the wholeness school really impacted our self-worth and self-image. So for me, I took the wholeness school for the first time in my junior year of college during COVID. I took it online reluctantly because my mom had already invested in it. And, I said, well, all my other classes are online, so I might as well take this class too, see if it helps me figure out my life. And sure enough, it did. Um, the the main thing, that I realized about my self-worth was for the longest time that I was a performer. I always felt like my worth was based on how I did. So how I did in school, whether that was like I was achieving, just any outcome, any performance. Um, if I didn't do well on a test, I'd feel bad about myself. And when I did do well on tests, I was like, I'm like the greatest person, and so that's really what I realized taking the Hona school. It gave me the awareness that my self-worth was based on my performance. And it had been like that because um, I recognized that when, growing up, a lot of times like I get a good job from my family of if I did, if I got good grades. But if I didn't, it was like, what's going on? And so unknowingly, I kind of developed this image that in order to be loved, I had to perform. And so I was really working for my worth until I took the Hona school and I could kind of recognize that and see how how that affected my growth and how that affected it didn't give me the freedom to fail. So I really had to learn that it was okay to fail. Like it gave me after knowing that, it allowed me to be more open to trying new things because I wasn't so worried about failing because my worth wasn't tied to how I did. And so that's really allowed me to take a lot of big risks, and those risks I feel like have paid off. Um, some of them still in the middle of seeing their payoffs, but um, you know, it just it's definitely changed how I see myself, and knowing that no matter what I do, no matter what the outcome is, right, my worth is unconditional and unchanging. Um, and I just like to say, like, the current that in terms of image, um, I think image for me was, I was shy, I was reserved, I was studious, and I'm not saying that I'm not at times shy still, and I'm not studious still, but it's more of, I didn't see myself as someone that would ever go into business. I never saw myself as someone that would be so, I guess I yeah, I never saw myself as someone with abundance, right? I never saw um myself as there's oh, I never saw myself as a woman of peace. That was such a foreign concept to me. Um, really understanding that you could choose to be a woman of peace. Like, what? Like, that's an option for me. So I always saw myself as someone that was stressed, that was busy, and overwhelmed. I'd say the biggest image change that the woman's school, like, and the wholeness school really allowed for me to develop was being a woman of peace. And it's something that I had to really work towards. And I feel like it's something that I'm able to, I continue to work on it today, but has come a long way since the wholeness school. So, right, thanks. All you, Teresa.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all that, Victoria. It's a beautiful testimony. So a little bit about myself. So we talk about the Wholeness School. It's a school that teaches different skills and mindsets to live a life of wholeness and to feel fully alive. So I encountered this school maybe, I think probably the end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020. And I found it at a time when I was just and I felt very complacent in life. I was, working a full-time job. I had all these different things I was involved in, and I didn't know how to say no to things. I always felt like I always had to say yes to things, and I would try to do all the things because I hated missing out. I had this, what is it, FOMO, you fear of missing out. So I'd try to do all these things, but then I would get so burnt out all the time, and it would be this endless cycle of doing all the things and then getting burnt out and not being able to do things for weeks. Um, but then um, I just encountered this master class that the Wholeness School has. It's called the Women's School Master Class, and at the time it just seemed like too good to be true, because I remember just feeling very complacent, feeling like I knew I needed to do other things in life. I knew I had a mission, a purpose in life, but I just wasn't sure where to go from where I was, what were the steps I needed to take. And I was just always so busy and stressed and felt like I never had time to do all the things that I wanted to do. Um, and also, just speaking of self-image and self-worth, I kind of based my worth on just the opinions of other people. Whenever I had to make a big decision, I would kind of talk to all the people in my life and kind of get everyone's opinion, and then I would make my decision based on that. And not saying that's a bad thing. It's good to get feedback from people, especially trusted people. But for me, I was just so ruled by the opinions of other people. I kind of just let it rule my life. And I kind of lived in fear of like what other people would think of me if I did something or did something outside my comfort zone, and lived in just a lot of fear too, just like fear of the future, fear of what others thought of me, fear of the unknown. But yeah, after going through this master class and learning about my self-image and my self-worth, that my worth doesn't come from the opinions of other people, that my worth is actually based on um, the fact that I'm made in God's image and likeness, that I'm a beloved daughter of God. that was just a huge shift for me to know that all those other things, the opinions of other people or all the fears that I had, that wasn't my identity. My identity was who I am as a daughter of God, and that I have a purpose in life. I have a contribution to make to the people around me. And kind of as Victoria was saying about peace, that was a huge change for me as well. As I was saying, I just used to be so stressed and busy all the time. And yeah, peace was kind of, I always prayed for peace, but it kind of was a foreign concept to me. But after going through this class, the last few years have been the most peaceful years of my life. And I think I realized that I was just in kind of like constant stress mode, a constant mode, like survival mode. And I wasn't able to just sit back and be at peace. But getting myself out of that survival mode and learning new skills and even new scripts, that's a big thing we talk about in this wholeness school. And those helped me to kind of redefine who I was. And yeah, just one of my favorite scripts is I am peaceful, confident, and courageous. And I use that a lot when if I'm going into a room and I'm kind of like nervous or I'm not sure how I'm gonna encounter people or who I'm gonna talk to. I just take a breath and say, I'm peaceful, confident, and courageous. And the peace is just kind of letting go of that stress and allowing myself to just take a breath and be peaceful. And then confident, yeah, I just kind of, I tend to just lean in a lot, and it just makes me kind of put my shoulders back and be more confident when I'm speaking with people, looking at people in the eyes. And then courageous, like I do things that I normally wouldn't do. I step outside of my comfort zone. And yeah, it took a long time to redefine that, because I used to be very shy, used to be very, I just didn't think that people wanted to hear what I had to say. But yeah, just knowing my worth and knowing who I am helped me to kind of redefine who I am and come out of that and yeah, just be who God has called me to be. And I still have a long way to go, but I've made a lot of progress, and it's really cool to see how far I've come over the last few years.
Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So let's see. So let's dive into it. Self-worth versus self-image. Did you want to go ahead and start, Teresa?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so today we're going to talk about our self-worth versus our self-image. And so our self-image, I'm going to talk about that a little bit first. Our self-image is the opinion that we hold of ourselves. So think of it as the I am statements that you say about yourself, or that other people have said about you. So it could be, I'm a really kind person, or I'm really good at running, or I'm terrible at running, or it could be, yeah, I'm not lovable, or whatever it is that deep within you, those things that you've defined yourself as. That's the image that you hold of yourself. Whether they're true or false, that's the image that you have of yourself. And then our worth, on the other hand, is it's unchanging, and it's given to you by the fact that you are made in God's image and likeness, that you are unique, unrepeatable, and irreplaceable. And nothing you could ever do could ever change your worth. So I like to use this example of just like hold up your finger and look at your fingerprint. You look at your fingerprint, it's so unique. It's different than anyone else's in the world. There's no one who's ever had the same fingerprint as you in the world, and no one ever will have it. And if you think of what fingerprints are used for, a lot of times they're used in criminal records. They're used to identify you. If you have an old iPhone, now it uses your face, but if you have your old iPhone, you used to use your thumbprint to get into your phone, right? And no one else could get into your phone because you have such a unique fingerprint. And if your fingerprint is that unique, imagine how unique every other part of you is. Imagine how unique your thoughts, your purpose in life, how unique the way that you see the world and what you have to contribute around you. And I just think that's so beautiful, because sometimes we think like, oh, no one, I don't really have anything to contribute to the world. I don't really have a purpose in life. But we have every single person, every single one of us has a purpose that we were created for. And maybe it's not to go to the moon and do something super outside of the box, but perhaps it's just being kind to the person, or to all the people around you, or maybe it's the way that you speak with other people, maybe it's the way that you encounter people. Whatever it is, whatever your purpose, it's unique to you, and you have a mission to fulfill that no one else can. And yeah, just some examples of, well, actually, Victoria, if you want to go to the next slide.
The next one, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just kind of a definition, if that's helpful. Yes, our self-image is the image we hold of ourselves. And oftentimes our worth, so we talk about our worth, that's unconditional. Nothing can ever change that. Nothing that anyone has ever said to you, has ever done to you, nothing that you ever have done or that you could ever do can change that worth. And we have, when we as Catholics or Christians, or when we sin, we can kind of fall from God's grace, but that doesn't change who we are. We can, get back up and go to confession or ask for forgiveness when we fall. But that still doesn't change our worth, doesn't change who we are. And when God sees us, he doesn't see us for all, like sometimes when we see ourselves with all the mistakes and all the flaws that we have, all the things that are wrong about us, maybe like the freckles on my face that I don't like, or the mistakes that I've made in my life when I was younger, or even today, or the things that other people have done to us that have shaped who we are. But when God sees us, he sees the beauty that we have. He sees the potential that we have. He sees us as how he created us. And so, but as we grow up, when we were younger, our worth was revealed to us by the people around us, by our parents or caregivers, our teachers, maybe coaches, maybe our peers or family members. And sometimes our worth is not revealed in the correct way. It's revealed in a disordered way. And so we maybe believe that we don't have worth. Maybe we believe that we're not a good person, or we have these lies that we've believed about ourselves. But it's important to remember that your worth is unchanging, no matter what anyone's ever done to you or said about you, or no matter what you've done. Your worth is unchanging. And the way that you see yourself is the image that you have of yourself, your self-image. And luckily, our self-image can change. Our worth doesn't change, but our self-image can change. So the way that we can change it is by, so some examples that can help. So the people that we surround ourselves with, that's very important, because I believe it's Jim Rohn that says we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So I went to high school in Rhode Island, and I was a boarding school, so there were girls from all over the country that I went to high school with. And I had a few friends from Minnesota, and they say certain words are very specific to Minnesota, like bag, they say bag, or they say, instead of milk, they say milk. And I remember one of my friends, I spent 4 years with her, but I remember at one point I was walking around, I was like, oh, can you give me that bag? And I was like, oh, what am I doing? But it was because I spent so much time with her, I started to kind of pick up on her, the way that she spoke. And so if that happens, if we pick up on people's words or the people's mannerisms, we also pick up on the way that people speak. So it's important to surround yourself with people who are encouraging, who lift you up, and yeah, just especially our friends we spend so much time with. It's important to have friends who see the best in us, and also to be a friend. It's important to be a friend that encourages other people and lifts other people up. um, I love the word to inspire. It means to breathe life into, and so it's important to, yeah, inspire other people, breathe life into other people, and we need to be, to have life breathed into us as well. And then another way that we can improve our self-image, if the image that you hold of yourself is, maybe not who you want to be right now, another way that you can improve that is by the words that you use, the words that you speak about yourself. So words are so powerful, and um, yeah, they can have a profound effect. We might think that, there's certain words that don't really have any effect, but um, the words become flesh. They become our reality around us. And so, just to give an example of this, um, don't think of an elephant. You're probably all thinking of an elephant, right? You can't, our brain works, the way our brain works is, it doesn't think of the negative, it just kind of thinks of what we say it. So if we tell ourselves, oh, I'm just not good at that, or I'm a lazy person, or whatever we tell ourselves, we're going to believe. um, and so, yeah, just words are so powerful. They create a picture in our mind. So use words, speak life into your own life and the people around you. um, yeah, and use words that inspire and breathe life. And if there's certain words that create maybe stress or anxiety, don't use those words, replace them. um, for me, the word busy is one that is very, it causes me to feel very stressed and feel like I don't have control over my time. And so I stopped using the word busy a few years ago. And I just, instead of saying, oh, I'm really busy, I say I have a full schedule. And for me, that just changes the way that I feel when I'm speaking about my time, because it gives me more freedom. It makes me feel like I have control over my schedule, or I'm in command of what's happening around me. So that's just one word that I've changed out. So that's if that's something that's helpful for you, go ahead and use that. Um, yeah, and then a last way is just, if you're Christian or Catholic, um, ask Jesus to reveal to you who you are. Because as I said before, we often see ourselves with all the mistakes and all the flaws and um, all the things that we don't like about ourselves, but he sees us for who we are. He sees us as made in his image and likeness, and he sees everything that about you that is beautiful. He sees the good in you. He sees all the things that he made you with. And so I encourage you to ask him to reveal to you who you are and to reveal to you how he sees you as his beloved daughter. Yeah, so Victoria, would you like to add anything to that, or we can go to the next slide?
Yeah, no, I think you got along with it. Yeah, I just want to let people know that this is just scraping the surface. Like we're touching like maybe the tip of the iceberg right now. These topics are just they're so deep and there's so much to cover about them. It's like one thing to know it. Like we might have, you probably also heard them, um, in social media, like affirmations or like, you might have heard these things, similar concepts elsewhere. like one thing I really want to emphasize is the fact that um, there's one thing to know in terms of like head knowledge of like, well, yeah, like I need to do this or um, to know yourself in that way. It's another thing to really be, right? Like knowing is not being. That's something that we really emphasize because you don't know until you are. And I think that's one of the challenging things about self-image is that there's a battle that happens, right? There's a little bit of a dissonance between your mind in your mind about who it is that you are and who you're becoming. Um, and so that tension is very real. And sometimes I feel like when we um, approach that tension, or one, either people are just afraid to even go there. Two, when we go there, when we start trying to create a new image, it's really easy to just be like, oh, okay, like I'm punctual. For me, it's punctuality. Like I'm punctual, like maybe one day of the week, and then the next day I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like 15 minutes late again. It's really difficult, right, to see yourself as that image, but then to like live it out, right? And so um something that's just like I guess what I'm trying to say is that knowledge is great, but it's when we put that knowledge into practice and when we're able to really live it out and be what we see, I guess, and what we're envisioning for ourselves, um, that's when like, where we really get to enjoy the freedom that we've worked for. But obviously like that doesn't happen without the help of many people. And so we just want to let you know that like we're here for you and that we are happy to, walk alongside you in that journey. So with that, just gonna open the floor now.
One thing I
Oh,
just wanted to add, I forgot to talk about was the reticular activating system. So that, if you don't know, it's a part of the brain. So it's the reticular activating system, the RAS. So this is a part of the brain that it expands what we focus on. So if, say, for example, you decide you want to buy a new shirt and you go to the store and you say, okay, I'm going to buy this green shirt, and you're looking for this, yeah, just a green shirt. You go to the store, get a shirt, and you're on your way home from the store, and you're walking out maybe of the store or in the parking lot. You start seeing like all these people with a green shirt on. Um, that those people were always there. They were there were always people there with green shirts, but you just didn't see it. Excuse me. But because you were focusing on that, like I just bought a green shirt, your brain starts to expand that, starts to focus on all the other green shirts. And it's the same way with anything else that we're um, trying to change in our life or trying to do in life. So if you're trying to, um, if you're trying to change a certain thing about yourself, one thing we suggest, if there's a certain opinion that you hold of yourself, maybe an I am statement that you're trying to change, instead of saying, um, I am, instead of using a negative, instead of putting it in the negative, put it in the positives, put it in the present tense of I am this, instead of I'm not. Let's say, for example, this example of punctuality, instead of saying I'm not punctual, or uh, say
I'm
I
always
am,
late.
in the process of being punctual, or I am punctual. Because our brain kind of starts to focus on, or yeah, I'm sorry, instead of saying like I'm always late, say, I am punctual, because our brain focuses on whatever. It doesn't take the negative or positive, it just focuses on what we tell it.
Awesome. So now, yeah, I just want to open the floor to discussion. Um, I just would love to hear your guys' thoughts, any experiences or things that you were thinking of when as we were talking. Um, so yeah, the floor is yours. Feel free to just come on off mute or yeah. unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. Go ahead, Frankie.
Hi. Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm gonna like actually put my hand down. I don't know how to do that, so that's on me. But
No worries.
absolutely love. Thank you. I absolutely love the topics that you guys were talking about, especially when we got to, our self-worth and our self-image. As it relates to my self-image and all of my, I am statements, in the past, I've always viewed myself as like, not someone very eager to be put in the spotlight and always wanting to pass on the opportunity to someone else because I felt like I was undeserving of it, right? Well, I learned very quickly that I am someone that, is motivated by interacting with other people and helping them figure out what type of mission or goals do they have for themselves. And how can I, as Frankie, contribute to that, contribute to helping you get to the finish line. And I see that as, hey, it's not that I want to shy away from the spotlight, but I'd rather be a part of helping someone else get there because then that makes me feel like I am being valued. I'm contributing to someone else's mission. And I enjoyed that feeling, very nice feeling. And it took me a while to reach to that point because I had so many other negative thoughts in my head saying, oh, you're just, not a very confident person. You should be more like this person or that person. It took a while for those voices to get out, but it was definitely for the best because now I find it easier to interact with people. Like I related so much to the conversation that you guys were having, honestly.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, it sounds like you definitely have a heart for, for encouraging and growing people as well. Um, I'd say just a question, a follow-up for you. Um, what was that moment, I guess, or how did you overcome that, um, I guess overcome those thoughts in your head? Because like, they can become very intrusive at times or pervasive. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so what were your strategies for avoiding?
So for me, yeah, no, gotcha. So for me, I reaching out to a mentor of mine, a very new one, and just kind of being very open and authentic about how I was feeling and how I felt like, oh my God, I don't think I deserve to be here now. I don't think the opportunity being presented to me are really meant for me, and I don't know how to overcome this feeling. I literally just shouted it out because I was holding it in. That's just the kind of person that I am. Whenever I encounter a problem and I cannot.
What
Oh, no.
action was cutting out and there she is. Okay, yeah, now we are. I think you cut out for a second there.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No
What was
worries.
the last thing you heard?
You were talking about you were opening up to a mentor authentically and just sharing like how you were feeling and everything that you're experiencing like mind and heart wise.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. The kind of person where it's like, if I have a problem, then I go off myself and I just have no solution. I do open that to someone that I trust about it because I do not like to overthink about my problems as that does not solve them in least. That is just the kind of person that I am. And it has helped me in more ways than one.
Hello, Frankie? Ah, cut out again.
Yeah, sounds like she's cutting out, but that's really awesome. She reached out to a mentor, and that's a really good point. I think sometimes we think like we think that we have to go through life alone, right? And we just maybe have this idea that no one understands us or no one understands what we're going through. I know I believed that for a long time in my life. But just realizing that we don't have to go through life alone. That there are other people who we can walk with, we can go to and ask for guidance. That we're actually meant to go through life with a guide, with other people leading us. I think the world kind of tells us like, oh, you can do everything on your own. If you ask for help, then you're weak. But that's so untrue. If we think of like the olden days, like they say it takes a village to raise a child, right? Like, and that's because you'd go and you'd have all these people helping you. And our society has kind of moved away from that, and it's a very individualistic society now. But we do need other people. We need other people in our lives, whether it's a friend or a mentor, a coach, someone who can help us walk through life, that we can, just someone who can walk with us. And I think that's a really important thing to know.
Frankie, did you get to finish what you were saying? I'm not sure if your connection's better now. Let's see. Okay, awesome. Companionship. Yes, you're saying companionship's very valuable. Does anyone else want to chime in here? Please ask. Give it a second. All right. Teresa.
Could I just say something really? One way that I've found that helps me is like going with like a wound or something that's, talking about my self-image, and just going in prayer and going like back to maybe the situation with Jesus there. And I feel like the few times that I've done it, it's like Jesus reveals to me what my worth really is. And it's been really cool to do that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's very powerful too, because I think sometimes we allow our wound to define us, and they are not who we are. They're things maybe that happen to us, and it's not to our wounds can be like such a big part of us, and they're not something that can just go away right away, but we can, there's different things that we can use to help us, like whether it's going to therapy or going to prayer and asking Jesus to reveal to you who you are and ask for healing, working through it. But yeah, those one of the things that I love we talk about in the women's school is that our wounds can be a compass to what we're called to do, to what our purpose in life is. And so even though those things that have happened to us have maybe they have not been easy, or they can really shape who we are or who we've become, but they don't have to define us. And we can let those things reveal to us what we're called to do.
Something I wanted to also touch on is kind of defining the different kinds of relationships in terms of mentorship. I think that it's like always we know that we're made for community and to grow with each other. Maybe something we can talk about more, Teresa, is like, how do we know what kind of mentor we should look for in different situations and different seasons of our life? I think like what's the difference between a mentor versus a coach versus a counselor, and just kind of defining the roles of those, and where they overlap, maybe where they differ.
Sure. Did you want me to define that, or?
Yeah, I can. It's up to you. I can start too if you'd like.
Sure. Well, I can give the difference between. So, the difference between like therapy and coaching. So I actually studied psychology, and I had considered going into counseling for a long time. The counseling or therapy is more going back into wounds and kind of touching on those and healing from that. Maybe it's talk therapy or whatever kind of therapy it is. So it's kind of going into the past and seeing what are the things that have that are holding me back, or things that are causing, stress or anxiety or fear, depression in my life. Coaching, on the other hand, it's not disregarding the past or disregarding the wounds, but it's focusing more on the future. It's focusing on the person that you want to become, the woman that you want to become. So it's learning how to dream. It's going into the desires of your heart and seeing what it is that the Lord has placed, what those desires are that He's placed on your heart. And then from there, discovering what your dream of this season in life is. And then coming up with a plan for how to get from where you are to where you want to be. So it's learning skills, learning new mindsets. It's maybe walking through certain situations that cause you emotions that you don't want to experience. But yeah, it's focusing more on who you want to become. And then mentorship, if you want to talk about that, Victoria.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that?
Yeah, so a lot of times, I think I've mentioned to people like, oh yeah, I have a coach, and they're like, isn't that the same thing as a mentor? I was like, yes and no. Um, a mentor is usually someone, right? And I guess for me, but also what I've noticed across the board when I'm talking to a lot of people, the mentor seems to be someone that is where you want to be. Like they're kind of like living a life that you see something about how they're living and about like who they are that you really admire, and then you go to them for advice, and they're open to talking sometimes, and they really, they give you that advice, and you're kind of they're walking in front of you, I guess, in terms of life. It's not like they're not better than you, but they're just a couple steps ahead. um and I'd say like mentors are great. Absolutely need mentors. um I think also a challenge though with mentors is like, we're really blessed to be in communities that we have found mentors. I think it's also challenging sometimes. It's like, well, maybe you're just not in an area where you found a mentor that you click with, or there's there's a lot of there's a lot of ways that you maybe just don't have access to mentorship, right? And in some ways, like that's a way that we could feel isolated, or just not isolated, yeah, isolated, or kind of um separated in a way, because we feel alone in what we have to do. And that feeling is never a good feeling. um but where a coach, I see as a coach, is someone that's going to be right there with you, like right next to you in the mud, so to say, or so to speak, of how they are literally working with you through whatever it is that you need. I also think that mentorship isn't as consistent in terms of how often you guys meet. Coaching is much more like structured, in the sense of like, this is what we agree to, this is how often we're meeting, you're gonna do this by the next time I see you. Just like a physical coach, just like a physical trainer, right? A lot of times, like, we'll invest in our physical health and our of like having a trainer to like keep us accountable for going to the gym. Who's going to keep us accountable for our mind? Who's going to keep us accountable for our heart? Like making sure that we keep our emotions in command, learning how to command those emotions. Who's going to keep us accountable for making sure that every aspect of our life is integrated, right? Like it's a very interesting concept. I think that we're, as a culture, moving a lot towards holistic, right? Much more towards wholeness and holistic health, right? But health is just one part, one aspect our wellness and well-being. There's so much more to a person than just their health and just like exercising and eating. Not to say that they're not important, um, but it's how do we integrate all of those aspects. Um, and I think that's really what wholeness coaching does is it allows people to be held accountable for those different aspects in a way that other coaches may not have the skills to do. Let's see. Yeah, Frankie said that it's a really interesting way to define a mentor. Do you want to expand on that, Frankie? Or
Yeah, can you guys hear me clearly?
yes, there you go.
Awesome. So I said it was such an interesting way to define mentorship as, people who you see who are at a place in life that you yourself want to be. Over my time through high school and like through college and stuff, I've definitely developed a great circle of mentors, but not in the sense that I want to see myself where they are someday, but more so I value the character that these people had, their responsibility, their sense of companionship and whatnot. Like I value their traits as normal people. And I say, I really think that under your care, I can also grow my character to be like this within our community. And, as I'm hearing what you say about coaches and how, hey, this is a lot more structured and they are supervising your growth on this goal and the third, I think, wow, I should probably be a little bit more intentional in creating coach to coachee relationships because I feel that in my mentor and mentee relationships, while I do look up to my mentors, it's just not to the point where I want to be where they are. I like to, tell them about my updates and stuff and have them wish me well and hear about the things that they're going to do and stuff. But no, I think a coach to coachee relationship is probably the next thing that I should be intentional about to just be, a more goal oriented individual, which is also one of my like character traits and whatnot. So this was very interesting. Like it kind of opened up a new, I guess, path inside my head to describe it. Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I'm glad you found that helpful. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I appreciate you clarifying. Like, it's where, like it's the characteristics that mentors have is what usually attract us to them in the first place. So, thanks for clarifying that. Um,
Yeah, and something as you're speaking, Frankie, that kind of came up for me. Something I've found interesting is sometimes, we have mentors or we can talk about them as role models too. It might be two different things, but sometimes we have role models for different areas of our life, and we don't maybe, as you said, like you don't want to be exactly where they are, but you look up to them. I like to have you explained as you look up to them for certain characteristics they have, like um, yeah, so just different parts of their life, maybe their encouragement that you seek from them, or the way that they encounter different people. And I think that's the same with maybe role models that we have. If there's a certain place we want to be in life, we can find those different people that we look up to. Um, and maybe they don't have every single part of their life. We don't want to be like them in every single part of their life, but we have those certain things that we want to be like them in. So I really like that way that you explained it.
awesome. We're coming up on time here, but there's one more thing I kind of wanted to address because I know it's something that comes up a lot in the dream sessions I have with people. A dream session, by the way, Teresa and I'd be happy to do it with any of you on here or any of you listening. basically what we do is we kind of break down, we go through with you like kind of what you want and what you don't want in every aspect of your life, and kind of like help gain clarity on where you want to go. It's kind of the first step in, in the wholeness journey process. So we'd be happy to do that with you. But something that, what specifically for the self-image part of our arena, something that gets confused a lot is body image and self-image. Um, Teresa, did you want to kind of expand on that, or I guess like how would you, differentiate the two, and how are they connected?
Yeah, I'll let you take a shot at that, Victoria.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess um, the way that I've explained it to people is that body image, I think when we first think of self-image, sometimes it's how we see ourselves physically, because like it's right in front of us. Like we wake up and we see ourselves every morning. Um, and so sometimes our self-image at first is only our body image. So I guess that's where like the confusion can kind of be. Um, and understanding that, I guess that's where worth comes in, right? Of if I don't have a good image of my body, then I don't think I'm valuable, or because your worth would be dependent on, um, you know, just on your body, right? Of a standard of beauty, or something that you want for your body. Um, the what I think that it's good to be aware of our body image, how you see your body. I think it's also something that we should care for, right? So in terms of being able to respect our bodies, and love our bodies in a way that keeps us healthy and um, keeps us as vehicles for contribution, right? Everything that we do and everything that we create, the reason we live is ultimately to contribute to others. So understanding that we want a positive self-image, not so that we can like brag about other people, like, oh, like my self-image is better than yours. um it's to make sure that we are becoming the person we want to be, so that way we can, take bigger risks and do those great things that um that God has put our desires in our hearts to do. And I know that body image is just one that hits home for a lot of people, in many different ways. And it's something that permeates our society. um, and so there's definitely body positivity, but also just being aware that our body image is the first step in our self-image, or it can be. But our body image is not your whole self-image, right? Because we're not just body, we are body, mind, spirit, and soul. Um, so awesome. Anyone else wanted to add anything? No? All right. Well, thanks for letting me differentiate that. Um, just to wrap up, I know we've talked about it a lot throughout the webinar, but this is the Wholeness School. We'd be happy to share more about it with you. I think we give you a pretty good expansive view overall throughout the webinar, but this is our wholeness arena, which has right here self-image is what we focused on in this webinar. But there are 7 other arenas that we are more than happy to go deeper and explore with you. So just one, did you want to add anything, Teresa?
Yeah. So we did kind of talk about this a little bit, but yeah, we talked about self-image. That's just one part of the whole class that we have. We have our Wholeness School Master Class, or Women's School Master Class. That's a 16 lesson class, and it goes into all these. If you see on the left bottom corner is the wholeness wheel, so it has all those different arenas of life: your self-image, your health, friendship, intimacy, contribution, environment, wealth, and family. And so it just goes deeper into all those different arenas. But our self-image is really the foundation of who we are. So that's one of the most important ones. So we kind of focus on that, but then go into all these different areas of life. And the idea is that when you're whole in all these other areas of life, you're going to be able to live a life that's more full or more fully alive. And when one part is missing or lacking, it's going to affect every other area of life. So yeah, if anyone would like to learn more about this wholeness class, please reach out to myself or Victoria, and we would love to, as Victoria said, we can do a dream session with you or kind of share a little bit more with you about it. And yeah, we are so excited to share more with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for all those who joined live and for your comments and thoughts and remarks in the chat. For all those who are gonna watch the recording of this, thank you for watching the recording. And we look forward to talking to you soon.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your night.
Have a good rest of your night, guys. Bye.